Welcome back to class, everybody. I am your chillinest Professor Ethan.
And I am your very under-rested Professor Ricky.
Yeah, you went to a little festy, huh?
I went to my first live musical event in a very long time. And it was a camping one, too. So I kind of forgot how, for lack of a better term, kind of shitty camping can be. Yeah,
it sucks.
It's not great. I was definitely sleeping on the ground,
which is terrible.
I was underprepared. I feel like as I get older, I need more equipment to camp comfortably. It's not just like a sleeping bag anymore. It just doesn't cut it. It's clear. I'm telling you, it doesn't cut it.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much that can go wrong with camping, right? Like, you could be on an area that just like has roots everywhere, and you're like, well, this is gonna suck.
Yeah, and like basically had to find the spot that even at this spot was adequate. It's still the ground.
And it's like late spring, early summer, so fire ants everywhere. Like, this is the worst.
I woke up and it was just like a daddy long leg convention on the outside.
Like, what are we gonna do here?
Yeah, and it was, just chilling with the boys, me and 72 other daddy long legs, no big deal.
Yeah.
But it was fun. I have to admit, I was I was missing music festivals. I was missing concerts and stuff. So at least that part of it was super fun, and everyone was super friendly. So I mean, no crazy events this year. The last time I went, some guy got very belligerently inebriated and was just making ruckuses at everyone's campsites and just
classic,
just some typical festival BS, But
yeah.
I mean, it's gotten me. My bones are tired. The skeletal system is even tired. I could feel it.
My guess is you just didn't get enough sleep.
It wasn't. Even if I did,
Zero
it was
recuperation.
Right. And it's even if I did get sleep, it wasn't good sleep because I feel like people kind of glorify camping in their own mind. Like, yes, the outdoors. I get to just wake up, and just the great view of nature when I wake up. Reality sinks in very quickly when you rest your head down in your tent. I just didn't have the equipment. So next year I'm gonna go full hog. The air mattress, the bigger tent. Full. I'm just gonna bring an RV. Screw it, I'm buying an RV.
You're on notice, Camp World.
Yeah, I'll be there with gear.
Think like a raised cot is like the only way I could even like potentially start feeling okay.
Right.
Just because like I don't like bugs at all. I don't like any of them. Get rid of all of them and I'd be happy except for the world collapsing. But
the entire ecosystem of everything just fails.
And, speaking of surviving out in nature.
Good segue. I like it.
Thanks. I got to pick up the
segue
slack when, I'm driving the episode this week. So this week we are talking about Season 2 of Promised Neverland. Of course, Season 1 was 2019.
Yes.
One of my top 3 favorite shows of that year.
That Season 1 was absolutely spectacular.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. But if you've been on the internet at all, you can kind of, there's some heat. There's some heat coming from this season.
Right. And we've kind of talked about it a little bit beforehand, and I think we have like a fairly solid like basic premise as to why it didn't get received very well.
Yeah.
But I kind of wanted to like go through sort of the acts of this part of the show.
Right.
Or of second season.
Yeah.
Because there's kind of like 3, I think, pretty distinct acts.
There are. And again, up top, there's going to be spoilers for both seasons because it's
extremely
important. Yeah, it's important to get the context from the very end of season 1 and where we are now in this season, because I think that plays a huge role into kind of maybe the core nugget of issue here with what's wrong with this season. So I mean, where do we start? They did the deed. They galaxy brain their way out of the farm, right?
Yeah, it picks up like immediately after they've left Gracefield, and they're running through the woods, being chased by pursuers.
Pursuers, a good way to put it.
Yeah, it's literally what they call them like a million times.
Yeah, exactly.
And they are eventually caught up with.
Yes,
because they're little freaking kids.
Yeah, they're children.
But they are ended up saved by a mysterious force.
And this is where kind of what you were saying when you were going through it and watching it. The first 4 or 5 episodes, you're like, I don't see
this isn't so bad.
This isn't so bad. I mean, the show's allure with, I'd say, most people is basically these kids kind of on the extreme back foot against this imposing societal force of the way the world is, right?
Right.
And that made it, that's to me is what made it engaging for me. How are they going to get out of this next one, right? Kept asking myself. And the way they did was always very engaging, and it was very rewarding to see them because everything felt so incredibly earned for these kids, right?
Yeah, and I think it really helped that they had a lot of bounds on them.
Yes.
Right? Because like when they're out in nature, it's kind of like, whoa, why didn't you just go around? Or
yeah, why don't you just go this way?
Like, why are you putting yourselves in these weird scenarios?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, anyway, so they're saved, and there's a scene there that I wanted to kind of talk about.
Sure.
Because I was trying to put together the story and figure out what exactly happened here. Because a lot of it was like random shit just happens, it feels like. And then, okay, anyway. So they find these 2 wandering demons who are like supposedly nice to them.
They're good boys and gals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mujika and Sanju.
I love Sanju.
And they teach them how to hunt, they teach them how to survive, whatever. And then they show them to the B06, which is this map from this pen that they have
from the
which
author.
I don't even recall at all.
I don't remember them ever having that either.
I don't recall it, but whatever.
It definitely wasn't in season 1, right?
Apparently it was.
Okay, I missed that entirely because
I don't know if I missed it or just like didn't register as being important.
Right.
So anyway, they got this effing pen and they know where to go to a shelter that's safe. So they go there, and then these, the pursuers send in human like commandos to fuck their shit up
like hard.
So my question was, I don't know if you recall exactly, but there was a scene when Emma was being chased by a big nasty thing.
Yes.
Ray was being chased by like 4 of the pursuer things.
Right.
And then the rest of the kids were being taken away by Dawn and Gilda. So like they were trying to break it up and,
distract them for
distract. And then Ray's writing on this tree like B06 pursuers.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that.
So did he like straight up tell them where their freaking hideout is on accident?
That's what I thought.
I couldn't figure out if they knew about this hideout separate or if he straight up told them where they were on accident.
I think it was more probably of a panic move to tell them like, this is where we're going.
Yeah.
For the right eyes, right? The right individuals.
Exactly.
But why would he not have known?
But they literally were all standing around huddling right before this all happened, talking about going to B06.
Yes.
So why the fuck would you need to write it down? You literally just talked about it.
Yeah, I don't know. And I'm trying to...
I was just baffled. I was like,
I know.
What is happening?
So I guess that scene, amongst others, is kind of problem number 1, I think, with this season, is there is a lot of proactivity of the kids in season 1. They made a plan. They followed through with said plan. There were a lot of moments where they had to pivot and react, but it's kind of what you said. Shit was just randomly not just happening to these kids in this season, but also like information was being thrown in from every direction. Yeah. I felt discombobulated. Like
100%.
Very, very.
It was like that Sherlock Holmes scene.
Yes. Discombobulation. And it was just a torrent of information. And
right.
I think they were more reacting more than they're being proactive, because it's a really fine line that season 1 walked that I really enjoyed, that elevated their strengths, but also, everything felt like a moonshot, but they kept winning. And that was really fun to see. There's no necessarily moonshot in this season. I mean,
I don't know. I think the whole season was like beyond a moonshot, because they're just like, I'm going to change the world. And it's like, oh my God.
Right. Is that really what you want to be doing? Do you not just want to like survive, please?
It was tough to get behind that as like their plan, because it's like, it just seems so not like realistic for a bunch of kids who just escaped like a slaughterhouse farm, essentially, to be like, nah, by the way, demons are good, or not all demons are bad.
Exactly. And that's a very like, whoa, you you don't know enough about this world to make that kind of thing, right?
That's what I'm saying. There's like no info for these kids, and they're like, I guess all these people aren't that bad. It's like, what?
Right. So we were kind of bombarded with events and information, but none of those things made the conclusions they came to justified.
Right. I was like, what?
They were not being fed these, and if anything, they were being fed a lot of shit. Like, demons do eat people. They have to do this, and we find out why is to kind of keep them from reverting into that beast-like state. And the ones that don't get their food and get their fix, they turn into those crazy forest demons, or they turn into, mindless, actual demons as they know them. So in the face of that, they're like, nah, they're all good.
Well, it's just weird. So they meet two good ones, quote unquote.
Right.
Which I have a big problem with Sanju in a minute, but
okay.
So they meet two good ones, and then they're like, I guess I don't want all of them to die, and that extends to like every other demon apparently. And it's like, well, wait a minute.
Exactly. So
wait a second.
You were given example of the contrary. Not all demons are bad, sure, but same with people. Like, human beings are the exact same way. So I mean, I don't know. You're right. It's just like,
yeah, but I will say, just, to be devil's advocate, not frequently am I being potentially eaten by other humans. So
that's a bit of a stretch, but I'll give you that point. I'll give you that point. But yeah, so I mean, these kids are kind of roaming around this demon world kind of covertly, right? But what I wanted to see was these kids, again, against all odds, finding their way to big brain themselves into safety. That's cool. What you had here was they seemed like they weren't on the back foot. If anything, they were very much on the front foot. They were somehow way more equipped than I think they should have been for combating this world, to even have aspirations of saving the human and demon relationship societally. That's batshit to me. Like, right?
Yeah, it did not compute well at all. Frankly, that aspiration and like basically Emma's whole character this season was literally unbearable.
Yeah, what happened here? What is it? Just her hopeful?
They took her
foolishness.
Took her like optimistic, like kindness from season 1, which we didn't care about because she was applying it to her family.
Yes,
and then she was applying it to like literally her enemies, her natural enemies, and it's like, okay, this is like such a Naruto talk no jutsu type thing, except for to the billionth, like upteenth, like percentage, and like worse, like I didn't see too much out of Emma this season that was like, wow, she's so smart, she's so strong, she's so fast. Like, that's the difference between season 1 and season 2. First, we had an actual face enemy, which was Mama.
Yeah, which incredible villain.
Right, we knew who was the villain.
Yes.
That was the first thing.
Right.
And then 2, we got to see the aspects of each child that made them special.
Yes. Yeah. Ray, Norman's big brain planning, Ray's just raw intelligence computationally, and then Emma kind of, the way you put it was very good, is because her almost how do I put this? Her ideology to her own faults, right? Of just caring and not compromising in the frame of saving her family tracks, works.
Right.
No notes,
perfect.
Brilliant. Right. But now she has nowhere to necessarily aim that because her family is, for better or worse, fine. Right. They have completed the deed from season 1, and she still cares about her family, but she's aimed that almost like obsessive ideology of not compromising at the world at large.
Yeah, which is just, it's asinine for a 7-year-old girl to be doing.
It's a scoping issue for sure. And it tracks. That's what's a little frustrating, is because I can't dispute it, because that is a natural progression of the kind of character Emma is. Her foolhardy nature of just, I'm going to save everybody and fuck off if you tell me otherwise, tracks, always was, always has been, but she has nowhere to aim it. Like, she's goalless, right?
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I think it's the aim. Like, instead of inward at her family, she just like blasts it out at anything that'll listen.
Friendship blast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, and maybe it was that aimlessness, and it was the lack of bounds that really kind of did this season in, because when you had,
I think it's that, but it was a repetition of like boring things. Like,
yes,
she could not shut up about like, putting all of the blame on herself. Like, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Like, at a certain point, it's like, you guys are all living together. You guys are all trying to survive together. It's not just your fault if something goes wrong.
Right.
It was so like, I understand that's probably a thought that some people have, but like your options were escape with your family or your family gets eaten by demons.
It's not like door number 1, door number 2.
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
and
that's
door
it.
number 2 turns out not great that all your family gets eaten.
Not
so
ideal.
It's like
not ideal.
pretty reasonable option, right?
Mhm.
So I don't know. I was just like extremely frustrated with like her mindset really the entire time. I think Ray was a much better character this season because he wasn't like a cynical asshole, but he still like applied his analytical skills and stuff to like really her problems. But I will say he didn't do much, which was annoying.
And if you're noticing, a lot of the agency in this season wasn't where it was in season 1, right? The agency came from the kids taking up arms and taking action. They drive the story forward. Now that you're out in the real world, it seemed like the story drove them and they were just popping from place to place. There was this huge agency dynamic shift that, why I was here for season 1, that isn't here in season 2. So you almost have to find other reasons why this show makes you stick around. And once you do that, you're starting to kind of pick it apart. Like, wait a minute, this isn't the show I signed up for. At least not the one I watched in season 1.
Right.
And part of that, like I said, is putting the squeeze on these kids. The world kind of putting the squeeze on them and then letting them shine through that pressure. That is what makes this show hold up. And that's what made season 1 such a blast. They were putting the squeeze on the world, right? They knew the cure. They knew the societal systematic problems. And they decided, or at least Emma did, I'm going to change all this. I'm going to do this. Fine, but not my show, not the one I wanted, right? And once you got in the middle of the season, really started to go to shit a bit, and I'm trying to think of why.
I really do think that this entire issue really goes down to bounds, right? Like the first season, they were really constricted and they had to find air, right?
Yes.
And what I will say is what we talked about in season 1 originally, I think it was episode 1 for us, actually.
First episode, baby. Wow.
We talked about this having a decent kind of parallel to whatever that show's called, Death Maze or Maze? Maze Runner.
Maze Runner, yeah.
So they escape the maze during the first movie, and then the second movie, they're sort of in a similar situation where they're out in the wilderness, and they're being pursued. But the difference was they actually like spent time showing them surviving, showing them rebuilding, showing them do things like that. And they tried to do that here, but they time skipped, and the only reason we knew they time skipped was a throwaway line.
Yeah, you're right. And
two asshole demons were walking by, and they're like, "Those Gracefield kids have been missing for a year now."
And yeah, now
like, that was it.
So you've had all of this time, and it didn't feel like a needed time skip, right?
No.
At all. So what you said right there about the Maze Runner parallel and the Maze Runner, them being out and kind of rebuilding for themselves, rather in this season for Promised Neverland, you have the aspiration of a human world to be found, right? So they do kind of have a goal, but these time skips and meandering.
I mean, to be honest, it's like scarily similar, like story-wise.
Yeah.
The difference is there's humans outside in the wasteland in Maze Runner.
Yeah.
And there is not, supposedly, well, I guess sort of, but there isn't really in this story.
Right. And I think that I kind of could tell what they're doing. They're dangling the carrot in front of the kids. Like, there is a human world out there. You can go to there and be safe as long as you go beyond the wall. Cool. Kind of trying to reconstruct the bounds. And maybe they almost realized, like, oh shit, we gave them a little bit too much leash. Like, we need to yank them back. We need to give them a purpose and an aim. But it felt, we never got to see it. I never felt personally connected to this human world enough to want to go there. But I don't know. It's just,
I don't know. I feel like that was a better goal than changing the demon world.
But that's what I'm saying, right? Is that despite having that re-entry of a little bit of purpose-driven storytelling, you have Emma hard pivoting like, nope, fuck that. I'm not going there. Instead, I'm going to change the whole world.
And you're
Sue
just
me,
like,
right?
Okay.
Cool, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe that was part of it. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing inherently to have her want to do that, because that is Emma as a character. That's who she's always been. But I don't know. I'm here now for different reasons than I started. Maybe I'm not exactly a fan of that, because
it just doesn't make sense to me, because you're not saving your family. You're like abandoning that quest to go back and get Phil to go save this world instead, or you know what I mean? Like, I thought, when Norman rejoins and his plan was essentially like kill off enough to where we can create our own world here. That's a solid plan.
Right.
I was actually down for that.
I was going to wait till you brought up Norman, because I actually had a big problem with him being reintroduced. I knew it was happening, right? But
he didn't get milked per se, like we
thought. Yeah, exactly. He didn't get milked, but kind of.
He got mentally milked.
Yeah, he got poked and prodded a bit, for sure. For sure. But his re-entry kind of elevated what I was upset about, and that's that back foot versus front foot. Who's in control here? They literally are discussing changing the world in such a way that they have the actual power to make that happen.
Right.
They're talking about it that way. So that whole dynamic relationship changed world versus kids. It's now the kids from before, like in season 1, they had no idea the world outside was an imposing force, but they found a way out anyway and still decided to go out in there, engaging, entertaining, awesome. Now they're discussing the same world that was this big bad world that they couldn't really kind of wrap their head around entirely. Now they're discussing what ways we should change the world. Not if, how. That power dynamic is a huge swing. Like, these kids now have that kind of sway, or at least talk like they do. No, I didn't see it, but the show gave them the tools, which again makes it not what I started.
Let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Did it feel like the most half-hearted attempt to regain those children?
Yeah.
Right? Like, you find out there's like a bajillion demons. They have freaking UMP 45 machine guns. They got MP5s. They got all this shit. There's a billion mamas.
There's a billion mamas.
And they send like 7 guys out to go find these like supposedly super precious children.
Yeah. I still
like, they got away so easy.
They got away from a lot of stuff really easily. And I remember,
and anyone they couldn't get away from, they talk no jutsu.
They did. Yes. The old Naruto trick. Believe it.
Yeah.
But I still, the theory that I had at the end of our first ever episode about this season 1 is, I think this might be an overarching test. A test within a test, right? Escaping the farm was just the first step, which would kind of track with how easily they seem to get away from all this shit. The half-hearted attempt, that in contact with the demons, they should have been dead 20 times over.
Yeah.
But they aren't. And I wonder if there is this kind of saving the world could be what this simulation is kind of setting them up to do. We need to raise someone who could actually pull this off, which maybe they just gave a reason why they'd have this crazy...
To be honest,
total headcanon.
No. I think that's a way to fix this.
Yeah, right.
Because then you say, okay, all of these this could be like sort of, what was that stupid show from Hulu?
You're gonna have to be more specific, buddy.
Last year.
Okay.
Godals.
Oh.
Were the enemies.
Oh.
She didn't have an arm, but she wanted to be like a...
Decadence?
That's it.
Oh, hey, I like Decadence.
Where like there's no. Well,
but I get what you're saying.
But they're doing this like simulation inside. All these things are just like kind of a game.
Right.
What if, right? Like, to fix this story.
Yeah.
Because right now it's a mess, right?
It's a bit of a mess, yeah.
But fix this story. All of these demons aren't really demons. They're just like some simulation or something like that. And you're trying to find out of all these kids which ones are going to first escape. And then secondly, going to do enough to get to the other world.
Yes, and I think...
And then those guys are instantly put into
milking machine.
No, like a I don't know, some military unit, and then they're gonna go attack the real demons. Like that would be wild.
I think yes. Motive wise, I could see the opposite too, is that these demons actually do have an epidemic on their hands, right? Their need for human blood and brains to keep them civil and sane and sentient even. They are seeing that we need another way around this, right? Because humans are becoming a limited resource. We need people who, in the face of the current world, how would they go about fixing it? That would all track really, really well. And again, earth-shattering twist. I think everyone would be really engaged by that. Like, oh, that's why they got away from this, and oh, that's why that this was kind of a half-assed attempt. You know, it's just to simulate, but they want to see their thinking is what they actually want. That is a way. I think that'd be an interesting way to fix this.
And I thought we might get that with the Lambda shit.
Yes,
right? Because there's this, like, we find out, oh yeah, there's actually another group outside of all this. I'm like, well, what the fuck is going on?
Was that not very Deus Ex Machina shit to you? Like the Lambda shit?
It was, but it also made sense. Like somebody is definitely like doing something for these farms, right?
Yeah,
like,
right. So like, how do we get the meat overall to be a higher quality every time, right?
I mean,
they can't all be norms.
Right.
They can't all be raised, right? Because they got to find a way to make that work. Remind me again how he was augmented. In what particular way Norman was augmented?
He wasn't. So
okay,
the only thing he had was drugs given him, administered.
Right.
And then they just gave him like test after test after test with like increasing difficulty every time, and he would just completely ace every single one.
Yeah, how do you
of them.
upgrade perfection anyway, right? How do you?
Honestly,
can't be done.
But yeah, I mean, really, I actually liked that one episode they did on that. Like, it was only like half an episode. I think it was episode 8. They showed like him going to Lambda, or actually him leaving the house, him getting taken in by Ratri.
Yeah.
And then going to Lambda, doing all the tests, and then blowing the shit out of Lambda. I felt like that was fulfilling for as short a time as they showed it.
Yeah, and again, I did like that bit, but Norman's reintroduction into the group, it kind of put a period on the power dynamic shift that I was talking about. We went from these kids having to scheme to him being able to blow up a fucking lab by himself or with a small crew, right? He can orchestrate that. Was he always this way? If so, I feel like the house would have been a bit of an easier situation, right?
Yeah. I think the difference was in season 1, they only found out about this stuff like really in the last 4 episodes or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Like we got to get out kind of scenario.
The fuck out of here, yeah.
Of course, we knew about it in episode 1,
right?
But they didn't really like all know that everyone else knew until way later in the season, right? Like if they were just trying to escape themselves, they could have. I would imagine early, but the plan to get everyone else out and somehow get them to understand that Mama is not such a good girl. Like I thought that was going to be pretty tough for them to do. But yeah, this guy's like a freaking commando assassin guy, can blow up anything apparently.
Right. So we're no longer on the back foot. The world is no longer.
I didn't mind them not being on the back foot. I just think they played it so terribly. Like what I was expecting. This is my personal headcanon of what I thought was going to happen.
Okay.
After episode 5 or whatever, when they were in the shelter, I was like, okay, now what they're going to do is they're going to do a time skip. They're going to show them like basically grizzled like war vets.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Going out and just like guerrilla warfaring all these demons.
Yeah, right.
And then I was thinking, okay, now they're gonna go hit another farmhouse. What I didn't know is that all the farms were in one little tiny area.
Yeah, they're all there.
I thought since there was Lambda 22578 whatever laboratory, I thought there was like so many.
Right.
All the way around, but it turns out there's only like 5 farms and like a few Lambda facilities.
Seems like not a very self-sustaining process. If this is their food source, you would think there'd be more, right?
And I gotta say, I mean, I know this is something you just have to be okay with as a story, but the amount of humans that were okay with watching little children get eaten in front of them and just be like okay with it was way too unbelievable.
And maybe it's just because the way I reconciled that, it's the world's been this way for so long, so they're kind of really desensitized to this shit.
I don't know who gets desensitized by people, little babies and little kids get eaten by a nasty demon.
Which is again why my reconciliation with that concept is not ideal for me at all, because it's very easily disputed. Like, it's still kids. They're still eating them right in front of them.
Or they have like canisters of kid heads. It's like, what is going on here?
Weird. But yeah, I did really like, to give it some high points. I like the demon society and the way they fleshed that out. That was cool. It made sense why they need humanity and why they need to eat them. That does track. But I just, maybe the whole like craving thing, if it was more medicinal, sure, but these demons needed to eat humans. At least that's what it looked like from Sanju's and the demon girl's perspective.
Yeah, Mujika, I believe.
Mujika, yeah.
But it was dumb. It was like the hunger was only related to the fact that they were degenerating, so like they needed to eat. But then, Sanju and Majika help all the kids out in episode 4, and they're like, all right, go on and live in the wasteland. Nobody will mess with you. And then they walk away, and Sanju goes to Mujika, and he's like, I want them to breed and like create wild children so I can go eat them then. Because then hunting's legit. And then like I was like, okay, good. This is what we expect.
Makes sense.
We expect characters to have two faces constantly. We expect people to be assholes in this show.
Right.
And then we find out later that he's just like down to help forever. It's like, what?
Yeah, they don't
why add that even if you're gonna not ever make good on that promise?
Yeah, exactly, because they don't follow through on any of that. It would have been engaging to see him snap, and while he's trying to help, he was kind of wrestling with his own internal, instincts and his sentient nature, whatever. But
or
again,
they'd be like, "Where'd little Dominic go?"
I don't know.
Who knows?
Was he the tasty one or the gross one? I mean, think I saw him in the woods.
Yeah. He was going that way. I don't know where he went.
But yeah, so that might be another thing I didn't really put in the words, that they set a lot of stuff up and they didn't really follow through on any of them. They kind of fizzled instead of bang, right?
I mean, Emma's the main problem this season for sure.
You think so? Yeah.
I mean, her legion's just like, it shifts every 5 seconds. And it's fine to say, I don't want to annihilate all of them, whatever, but her goal should have been to leave then. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It doesn't make sense to say, well, just kidding, I'm going to change this world I know nothing about. I know nothing about the demon hierarchy.
Right. So when it felt like she's biting off more than she can chew by saying, I'm coming back and I'm going to get all of you guys, that felt fine, because like we said, it is in... it's in service to helping her family, and that's always been a character thing. Now she's biting off more than she can chew, and really, it seems like, again, a hollow promise, right? I'm going to save the world. I'm not going to eat these kids. I'm going to help them, or I want to eat these kids at some point.
But how do we eat these kids?
How do we eat these kids? I don't know. A little butter basting and some salt, but who's counting? But you're right. They keep setting up this stuff and all the promises that this, Promised Neverland season 2, they set them up and they never follow through on them. And it's kind of bums out, because
I think it just didn't feel like they fully explained anything enough to where it would feel genuine for these opinions to switch, right? Like, that guy comes in, Valak, to the evil-blooded girl's temple, and just because he mentions that there's like kid demons, all of a sudden she's like, wait, they have families. It's like,
right.
You have 3 interactions that were either neutral or good with demons, and then you have this entire period of your life where you were being bred to be eaten by these.
It's like you forgot Connie.
Yeah.
Like, how dare you forget about Connie, Emma?
Right?
Like, literally, like, how could you forget all of that? You're right. It's not... It makes logical sense that she would come to this conclusion in some respect, but the speed and conviction by which she does it felt incredibly unnatural, right?
Yeah.
Even for someone as idealistic as Emma, still, and Ray, kind of letting her do this. Like,
so what I've been thinking about Ray is his like goal this season is to just like not go against the grain. His goal is to just stay together with the family,
stick the course, right? Yeah.
And whoever comes up with a dumb shit idea, he's just gonna help them no matter what.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course that's gonna be Emma. They like seem to have borderline elected her as like the leader here.
Sort of, yes.
Which I think is ridiculous because she did not show good leadership skills in the first season for probably 90% of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like her like at the end she was very good, but she was like, I wouldn't say leaders should be as idealistic as her because then you lose some of the realism that making tough choices comes to bear. But the problem with this show is she makes a choice and never has to deal with any consequences for that.
Yes,
like
thank
none.
you.
She had no consequences all season long.
Right, and for a show that seemed to be, at least season 1, really make you care about the ramifications of people's decision making, they kind of put that to the wayside in season 2. So, another promise I don't feel like they followed through enough on was the author. Was it Minerva? Was
William Minerva?
I was so engaged by this mystery character slipping in information through books, and what a brilliant concept. And then like, okay, we have someone on the outside. Then you felt like this author was just kind of like the fill-in answer for every like kind of weird mystery thing, like literally guided them exactly where they have to go every single time. They felt strung along on leashes, pulled by this Minerva author.
Yeah.
And they weren't discovering new things now, right? They were just being toted. Like, come along, kids. Go to the base. Follow this, follow that. I don't know. I wanted more out of that.
I didn't really mind that so much because I think like him writing all those books, explaining like, each of the wildlife in that area too, and like giving them little hints throughout all these books at like how to survive outside, and then hearing the story at the end of how that all happened, I thought was fairly solid. I didn't really have any issues. One massive issue I did have with the Rotary Bros was, if you recall, there's the scene near the end where Peter has his brother killed. They're in a fucking city, and they don't ever explain where is this city?
Where's that city at?
Why does it look like a human city?
Yeah, right.
With a shitload of humans, and then now we're in this world, and the only humans we see are Rotary and a shitload of girls.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And
like, what is going on?
I like the idea of Rotary's character. It would make sense that someone like him, with the casualties that he's kind of had to like undergo, would obviously exist in this world.
Yeah.
I wanted maybe them to introduce him just a little earlier, so I had more time to care when the other shoe dropped at the end, and I could tell when he was just like, bye kids, like he's out. I was like, man, I wish I would have been with him a little longer. I think this would have landed a lot better if I got a little bit more time with him, or they just kind of gave more flesh to his story, right?
Yeah.
Because I like the character. They just gave him to me a little too quick. It was kind of like the Mugen Train issue where they gave me Rogyoku, and then like I wanted to really care, but there wasn't enough of him yet for me to make me to care. So, good character though. I did like him.
There's very few characters this season I actually liked. I wanted a lot of them to just die, to be honest.
Yeah.
Including Emma.
Yeah.
So here's my like morbid like theory thing. So what I thought was going to happen is they were going to open that door to the human world, and you know how it's like all bright and whatever.
Yeah.
I thought they were all going to walk out, and then as the door was closing, there's the 3 that stay behind with all those other ones.
Yeah.
You just see a big fucking arm go by and wipe all of the family away.
That would have been insane.
And then you're like, okay, end this world.
Yes. That's
what they needed.
They needed a little hopeless. They needed a little hopelessness.
They needed one of these little kids to get eaten.
Yes.
Right? And then
one of these little kids get munched real quick. You're right. And here's the thing, right? Is once we got that in season 1 in platinum status level, right? That when that moment dropped, that was unlike anything I had ever experienced in anime. Maybe not in a very, very long time, but it added stakes, right?
Like instantly gave you a reason to care.
Right. And they did it perfectly with almost no words, like what's at stake. The kids know there's a timeline for this. We know the villain is Ma because she was clearly like, wait a minute, someone was here. And all that stuff. So like masterclass, no notes, brilliant. This season, like you said, the stakes were inherent, but they weren't like explicit enough, I guess. Like not in a graphic kind of way, more like literally what are they combating against? And it's just society. Too fuzzy. So fuzzy, right?
Well, I think they struggled a lot because they showed them being hungry, and we were supposed to care about that. We're like, okay, they don't have supplies, whatever.
Yeah.
But then it's like, seems like every time they needed food, manna from God would just fly down to them. It'd be those fish, it'd be birds migrating, it'd be, this and that always popped up.
The world provideth. Yeah.
Right. And then there was one scenario where they almost got eaten in the demon town.
Yeah.
Tama and Lanyan.
Yeah. And that was a good scene.
But then they get saved.
Yeah, right.
Like divine providence will not let these kids get eaten.
I think that's what we needed, a little bit more hopelessness, right?
Yes.
I want to see, because that, like, the face of that.
Truly what I wanted was like them to form like a Guilty Crown version, like guerrilla warfare. Ray was either going to be a tyrant or Emma was. Something was going to happen to make these fuckers get serious.
Yeah, right.
But they felt like they were having too much fun the entire time. And this is supposed to be like a stone world you're surviving in against demons. Like, Why is it so fun? They were having way too much fun.
Why are you kids laughing and smiling?
It was too much.
It was too much happy. Too much happy to go around. But yeah, so I think we already talked about it. If we could fix this, add some stakes, make, kind of the way that it's being told now, the world seems kind of out of whack from what we thought it would be. If there was a larger narrative that these kids are being tested in, that'd be pretty cool. But
I'll
again,
tell you exactly how to
stakes,
fix this, actually.
Stakes, yeah.
So you know how they're listening to the radio and they hear all these houses saying like all these kids?
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't they try that ploy earlier? Like basically less than a year after they've left, say, we are taking all the kids from Gracefield House and we're shipping them all today. Force them into a timeline where they don't have like that's the problem, right? They had so much time to create these like plans, to formulate these drugs, to make these bombs. Like it feels like, with a year we could probably take them on too. But imagine if they're like a week into their escape, they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna ship all the kids from Gracefield House.
Exactly.
And then they have to come back immediately.
Yes.
And literally come back to a trap. Yeah. Right? But they know that. And then just another problem I had.
Yeah.
Where the fuck did they get all the materials from to make a hot air balloon army?
Thank you.
It's like, what is I thought we were struggling to survive over here.
I think that's part of the time skip. Like, do we know really how much time that they in that span, right, when they made that plan up and then kind of constructed it? How long was that?
It was literally the next day, because they had just blown up that town and they're like, oh, they're gonna know for sure now.
So there was no time skip. They
literally
just
one
had
night.
How I just in my brain I'm like, yeah, it must be a time skip. How else could they fucking have made this work?
Well, the only thing I could think, and this is just pure like trying to do
headcanon kind of,
well, just trying to help out the author here, or director or whatever, is that maybe that was their original plan to go bomb the different demon cities, so they had already made those.
Yeah.
But like, to me, that's a little tough to like get behind.
Yeah, I feel that. But yeah, but if not that, then what else, right?
Right. Like,
yeah, what else could it be? So yeah, I mean,
it's just disappointing, man. It was all in all, every piece of it after episode 4 and then maybe before episode 10 was disappointing as hell.
I just didn't know what they were trying to go for here. Like, they seem to have, the author, the director, or whatever, whoever decided that this is the way the story is going to go, it just seemed as though they had a really good game going, and then they decided to switch up what their main core tenet was. It's no longer surviving in a hopeless situation. It is kind of like actual societal warfare these kids are waging.
Or it feels like they condensed 3 seasons into one.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
most of it was all like episodes 7 to 11 was where all the condensation was.
Yeah.
And that's why it felt so like, I guess, lackluster and so unsatisfying.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And then like there's obviously a time skip at the end, which they don't really give us much context for because they show Phil as like a freaking adult almost coming up.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, our main character finally came back in the story. Phil, a constant god throughout this entire thing.
The true biggest brain of them all.
And I will say, in terms of characters, still hated Gilda, if not more, this season. Because she like took on this mom role and started like constantly complaining to Ray and Emma every time they did anything. God. It's like, all right.
Don't push yourself. We're literally in a demon world. There's no other choice but to push.
And then Dawn was just being a beast. Like Dawn, he was not a crybaby all season.
No, good. He got
sick.
ups, man. He's good to go. Dawn, new fave.
Yeah.
Well, besides Phil, let's not get it twisted.
I mean, Phil is the main character.
He's the main character of the story. But yeah, we gotta do it to him, man.
What about Isabella? I knew she was gonna pull some shit.
I knew she's gonna pull that shit.
Because I think it was too symbolic at the end of last season. Her just being like, "Go kids,"
right.
For her to like then actually turn on them at the end. I knew that wasn't gonna happen.
It can't be.
It was almost too telegraphed.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it was. That's what it was. That basically everything that was telegraphable, like Norman's return, Isabella's twist, like that was so set up that they almost just had almost like a checklist of stuff they had to do this season.
But I will say the dumb thing.
Yeah.
There was a grandma previous to her.
Yes.
What the fuck happened to her? Did she die in that year just because she's old?
Maybe.
Like, it was just dumb.
She was, let go.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, explain those things. Like, why just like have the next time you see Isabella, she's Grandma Isabella.
Yeah, right. Oh man. I'm struggling to find a number for this season, man.
It's pretty low for me. I got a number.
We got a number?
I do.
I'm going to go ahead and say 72 out of 100 lacking Shu Sakugas. There's no Shu Sakuga in this one. What the fuck?
They did a couple...
Sasuga? Come on.
They did a couple. Couple shoe shots.
But I wanted more shoe shots.
Yeah.
That's what they're known for. Great storytelling, great art, and shoe shots.
Right.
That's what I wanted. I'm going to go 72. I mean, there were a lot of problems. I wouldn't go any lower than a 70. Still very high quality, all things considered. But yeah, I'd say 72. Considering how mid-90s the season 1 is, it's still in the same show. They can still claw this back. But season 2 is the low point. I got to go 72.
I'm going 67. And it's like...
I don't know if I could drop it below a 70. I mean, you state your case, but
I don't think this was a 70 show.
Gotcha.
I didn't get any of the catharsis I was looking for. I got zero catharsis from this.
Yeah.
I was completely unsatisfied.
I was thinking about that too. Is that because we're just more seasoned? It can't be, right? Because I remember I was on the edge of my couch the entire first season, and the second season I'm like lounging.
It was hard to finish the show.
Yeah,
I'm not going to lie to y'all.
Yeah.
It was tough. And then I'm under the impression now that this is it. Like, this felt like a very finite ending.
Yeah, there's definitely way more, but I don't know if they're doing a season. They might be doing a season 3. I'd have to go check, but if it ends here, I could see that.
What I don't know though is the way more that entire period where they just showed flashes of them, I guess, conquering the demon world and taking the king down or whatever.
Right.
Having Mujika be the queen.
Yeah.
I didn't know if that was what was supposed to happen in the latter chapters or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or if now that they're on the human world, something's going to pull them back or which would be okay for me. If this isn't it, I'm okay with that. I want to see what happens, but I wouldn't say I'm necessarily super excited to see that.
I think that's the most disappointing thing of all, because at the end of season 1, I was frothing at the mouth for season 2.
Oh yeah.
Now, season 3 comes out. Yeah, I guess I'll wait and binge it. Yeah, it's not. Put it this way, it wouldn't be a weekly thing for me. I wouldn't be edge of my seat waiting for that like I was last time. But yeah, I don't know. There's still a lot of promise. I think they can pull this
There's
back.
There's a lot of promise.
That is a promise in this Neverland. It's definitely a promise. But I want to see them pull it back because I would really hate for this to go out with a whimper. This IP to go out with a whimper like that because it'd be kind of sad. But so I recommend. I mean, y'all go see it for yourself. I mean, the internet's hot on it right now. There's a lot of people kind of disappointed. There are people that did enjoy it, and it's not a lost cause. It's worth your time, but make for yourself, decisions whether or not you think this is. It holds up to the.
I would say if this was just on its own, this would be like maybe a mid-70s show. But the problem is when you drop so heavily from like a 95 to this.
Yeah.
That's why I dipped it below 70, I would say.
I can agree with that.
And then probably the absolute lack of like answering my questions or making me feel good about it.
Yeah. I want to feel good. I want to feel entertained.
Right.
It was blah. It was just, I don't know. I know it sounded like I'm really shitting on it and I still gave it a 72, but I mean, there was some moments, some sparks of feeling in the beginning. But then it just kind of went away. So, I mean, oh, man, we got to watch a good show soon. I feel like we've had a string of like 60s, 70s in the last couple of episodes.
I mean, our Mugen Train one wasn't too long ago.
Mugen Train was pretty fucking dope. You're right. You're very right. Okay, fine. But thanks, y'all, for coming to class. If you want to see us on YouTube, hello. We did not film it in time lapse this time. So, full transparency. This should be up. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. All the links are in the description. If you want to give us a monetary love, only if you can, patreon.com/weebology. $1 and up gets you into the Discord. $3 and up gets you the syllabus sidebar, our lo-fi, high vibe, sometimes anime, sometimes not, sometimes visual sideshow where we talk about life and shit. We've been doing some GeoGuessr lately. Got a tier list up there now too.
Oh yeah.
It's a spicy takes while I eat very spicy ramen. Definitely in the middle. Yeah, every time I take a hot take, I'm like, well, fuck, gotta get me some of that ramen then. Oh, buddy, I think that's all we got. Yeah, I want to go home and watch Castlevania because that dropped this past weekend.
Yeah, so I guess look forward to an episode of that at some point.
That'll be soon. But until we get our vampire rocks off, I'm Ricky.
And I'm Ethan.
And this has been Weebology. Deuces. I came out vampire rocks. I had nothing else in the brain.